the ketamine training that I was a part of. You know, there were times when we were sharing and expressing together in the integration, and then where I'm saying Icaro, you know, where I felt inclined to bring that kind of energy and training to what we were doing.
Psychedelics are now acknowledged as bringing a major paradigm shift to our understanding of mental health and of human consciousness. But without some guidance, much can go awry. What are the psychological, somatic, and spiritual frameworks that can support us working with psychedelics? And who are the people stepping up to help guide us in this process? Join us as we discuss all this and more in Season 2 of Adventures of the Psyche. Welcome, friends, to the first episode of Adventures of the Psyche, Season 2, where we explore the story of psychedelics and the frameworks being used to guide us as we work with them. Today, we are meeting with Dr. Joe Tafur, who's doing something a bit new and revolutionary. He's working with Native Americans, bringing psychedelic-assisted ketamine therapy to this community, and doing so with a ceremonial approach. Joe Tafur is a Colombian-American family physician who, after completing his family medicine training at UCLA, spent 2 years in academic research at the UCSD Department of Psychiatry in a lab focused on mind-body medicine. He now has a medical practice currently based at the Ocotillo Center for Integrative Medicine. In addition to his medical work in the United States, Joe co-founded and co-managed the spiritual retreat center Niwe Rao Espiritual in Peru from 2010 to 2016 and is an international author, educator, and co-founder of the nonprofit Modern Spirit, Inc. He is a Shipibo wisdom carrier, ayahuasquero for the Church of Eagle and the Condor, and founding member of the church. Hi, Joe. Welcome. So good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Marissa. It's good to be here.
I really appreciate how you bridge what many might consider total opposites, from working both as a medical doctor to being a shaman to bringing a spiritual healing to modern healthcare, and now working with ketamine psychedelic therapy for Native American populations. Can you tell me how that last one came to be and why?
I was back here in Arizona, and I've been, we've been working on our legal case to try to find a way to be able to offer ayahuasca legally, as a sacrament here to our community. And so while I've been working on that, I get invited to be part of these different organizations. And I was invited to be on the board of PRATI, which is Psychedelic Research and Training Institute based in Colorado under Dr. Scott Shannon, who's a psychiatrist. And so they are a clinic, an integrative psychiatry clinic that is also one of the sites where the MAPS MDMA trial is happening. So they offer that there. So they have direct clinical experience with, however many people have come through that clinic for that intervention, MDMA-assisted psychotherapy. They, at some point, like so many other people who are involved in that kind of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy work, started exploring with ketamine. So when I got invited to be on that board, I was exposed to the work that they were doing, that this is something that they were really they do a lot of other integrative psychiatry, but while they're waiting for the MDMA to be legal, they're really engaged in the ketamine work, and they're really happy with it. Similarly, another friend of mine that got involved with working for Field Trip in Atlanta, and similarly, he's looking for some avenue, some possibility, very skeptical. I don't want to be involved with this. I don't want to be involved with that. He's very kind of a plant medicine focused person, sacred medicine focused person. And he got involved as a doctor and had really beautiful results with a lot of people. Then another group in San Francisco, I have friends that are involved there that also are part of the MAPS trial at Polaris that just got involved with ketamine and providing that for people, and again are having these great results. So I was curious. And then as a medical doctor, it's like, would I ever want to do that? Even though I'm, deep with the plant medicine and all that stuff, could I see myself providing that? That would be a way for me to practice medicine, to be a doctor, to make money doing this kind of thing, publicly, legally. And so I was curious. I've been thinking about it for a while. Then I finally went to a ketamine training as part of Prati's organization. And I was really impressed with the experience that I had personally and that the group had in this kind of retreat setting that they were running. So I've been learning about it. On the way there, we were trying to come up with a reciprocity project. You hear people in the psychedelic world, whether it's the venture capital or the money or all this supposed money that's flooding in or that is flooding in. I heard the latest figure I heard was $2 billion. And so all this money flooding in, in the hopes of like getting a piece of the profits on the other side of whatever it is that's going to happen. But then they talk about reciprocity. I hear people, oh, we need to do more reciprocity work because it's psychedelics and we're trying to be more conscious and, all those different thoughts. And so we suggested like, hey, I didn't hear a lot of new ideas. I wasn't sure. I mean, there are some people that are doing projects back helping cultures in Peru or elsewhere, not that familiar with that many, especially not coming from the North American kind of space. But we were like, what about helping Native Americans here in the United States? Is the ancestral culture or is the indigenous cultures are the ones that we want to kind of demonstrate our reciprocity for their role in kind of paving the way for this psychedelic assisted psychotherapy healing that people are observing all over the world and kind of keeping the traditions alive, despite all the pressure and the violence and the destruction and the, oppression. And so wouldn't it be interesting or curious? I just thought it would be interesting or ironic, or I don't know what, or very much for us is like the eagle and the condor, this prophecy of like that the culture would have to come together. So that you see those Western culture that is becoming more interested in things like ayahuasca ceremony, trying to extend beyond their cultural bounds. Why? Because the treatments that they have available to them are not enough to meet the need of the kind of the illness for which they suffer. Similarly, the Native American community with still surviving elements of traditional healing and traditional ceremony and even some sacred plant medicine ceremony. However, it's overwhelming, what they're facing in their communities as far as addressing mental health issues, et cetera, et cetera. So communities that may have been more closed to something like, this psychedelic psychotherapy are curious for the same reasons that Westerners are curious about ayahuasca ceremony, because they heard it help somebody that perhaps that they care about, somebody that they trust, somebody that they know, and they help that person. And so for that reason, they are willing to open their minds, because people need help and they want help. And so that's the old tradition, just by the way, the old tradition of how do you manage like psychedelics or sacred plant medicines, or how do you have that stable relationship with those kind of substances within a community, within a society. And they say, keep it in the medicine, keep it in the medicine. In other words, let the healing work, spiritual healing work, let that guide the process. Don't get distracted with the grandiosity, I'm so special. Oh, wow, I saw this, you didn't see this, all that ego-driven kind of narcissism that spins out of control. And it's done it before, we already went through that experience here in the United States. So we say, keep it in the medicine. In other words, that the healing work, the humble truths of people trying to find help for what they're struggling with, like that helps guide, that helps ground, that helps kind of keep things in a sustainable direction. So in that sense, that's what's guiding the process, is people looking for help and trying to find people who are willing to try to provide that help in a responsible way, in a respectful way. Just like you want your ayahuasca healer in Peru to be somebody that is going to be, responsible with you, respectful to your culture, to your, how you like to be talked to, how you're used, whether you feel comfortable being touched or not touched, et cetera, et cetera. Similarly, when Native American culture, I'm sure there's a big diversity of opinion within the culture. You can't generalize, but the individuals that we're interacting with are people that are open to trying something, a different kind of treatment modality, as long as, like I said, they're being treated, respectfully, and the treatment is being done responsibly. So there's a trust element that you have to build, in order for people to be okay with that. And so just like down in Peru, we had to have people like me, to bridge and tell people, hey, it's okay. You can, try this out with this tribe down here in the forest. So similarly, we have Native American partners in our community that are the Church of the Eagle and the Condor that are, that collaborate with Modern Spirit, that can, be voices to build trust. Let people know, okay, let's try this. Let's be careful. Let's see how this goes, but let's see. And then along the lines of that relationship, same way again, down in Peru with ayahuasca, and the other plant medicines, learning about how psychology can inform what we're doing, learning how Western medicine can inform what we're doing, how biochemistry and epigenetics might be involved in what we're doing. Similarly, the side of using ketamine-assisted psychotherapy with anyone, and in this case with Native American people and their family members, is the role of these spiritual experiences, the mystical experiences, the ceremonial kind of ways of going about it, that is also, going to bridge.
Okay, so keeping it with the medicine, keeping the traditions alive. You're working with a team of indigenous and elders, advising on how ceremony can play a big role in assisting the therapy. And I know you're in the early stages, but please tell us more of what that looks like.
So how it begins with still, the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy is still guided by a healthcare professional, trained in that work. So in this case, the lead person, the two lead people that have been involved so far are psychiatric nurse practitioners that run ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. However, those two people, they're quite open-minded in what they bring to it. But then we've had a Native American kind of assistant support, that is a person. In this case, in the first run, it was a friend of ours, his name is Joey Bellis, and he's a young guy, he's Apache, and he's working directly with several alcohol and drug treatment programs in the Phoenix area. And that's where we're kind of identifying some potential candidates from that program. So those people are already connected to a number of services that are actually connected to some tribal support. That being said, the ceremony itself, in other words, what happens to people during the ketamine. So what we'd like to see happen, depending on the availability of people and all that stuff, is to have a Native elder be present, during the actual session and the integration of the session. If that's not possible because of scheduling, then to be present during the integration, So that's one of the ways that we start building experience and sharing ideas.
What does it look like? So as the Navajo elder is there, is he bringing any Navajo traditions to the ketamine therapy?
It's wide open. So for us, we have no limits to that with respect to the practitioner, of course. So in other words, they need to be working respectfully with the person who's taking responsibility for the ketamine treatment. So that's part of it. So in this case, the elder is, in collaboration with the nurse practitioner or with myself, providing support even during the session. That's also possible. That could be that they could take the form of, singing, chanting, praying, may involve work with feathers or with rattles or, different kind of energy work that could happen during the session. We're not against that. We're open to that. And we think that there may be some interesting things to explore with that. That being said, that could also happen in the post, when the person is kind of like past the maybe when they're in the more open state, in the psycholytic state, could also work with them. If if the healer feels inclined to do that in that kind of place. So we're not saying this is what's going to happen. We're saying this is one of the possibilities, for myself, for example, like in the ketamine training that I was a part of, there were times when we were sharing and expressing together in the integration, and then where I'm saying Icaro, where I felt inclined to bring that kind of energy and training to what we were doing. So that's,
and it's super interesting to hear where the parallels are when you're singing songs in Shipibo tradition as an ayahuasquero. You're working with energy, and then your past dietas have informed how you're working in the space. And I'm curious how much of that translates to the work to the ketamine space.
I think it translates, I mean, there's the Icaro, the full training in the tradition that I'm aware of. I mean, the goal is that once the patient is open to it, that they wouldn't restrict their singing to the ayahuasca ceremony.
And the medicine is not going to, like, the medicines open up a person similarly the way ayahuasca could.
There's some degree of that, there's definitely an overlap.
That's cool.
Exciting. I've sang to people Icaro on MDMA and seen big results, and on ayahuasca and on psilocybin mushrooms. Mm-hmm. And also the tradition, the energy healing traditions, are trying to deal with something universal. That's the reality for people to consider. What we're talking about is universality. In other words, if this is a human being, if you acknowledge the humanity of this German guy that came down to the middle of the Amazon to try that out, then similarly, that the therapist would acknowledge the humanity of this Native American person. Mm-hmm. And there are cultural differences and things that they color our perception and our experience. Sure, there's a lot to consider, but there is a lot more. Like my friend, Josie Begay is a Navajo elder that is one of the people that kind of advises us, ceremonial leader with her husband, CJ. And she says, her experience is that we have a lot more in common than we do different. That's her experience, as a woman that grew up in the boarding schools.
Yeah, I feel that. And I'm excited for when we're doing studies on the commonalities between it all.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's where we're headed. And that's what we're like. So we're just saying that, that singing and Icaros and, it's kind of like people are always saying, oh, you have to know the culture. If you don't know the culture, it doesn't work and all that stuff. But I worked at a center in Peru. People came from all over the world. They had massive healing, They don't understand people. They never been there before. Similarly, it's like when it's malaria meds that were produced, I don't know where, and one of the local natives has malaria, they take the pill, it works on them. Yeah. So and they're open to it because they know, that we know that can help you, in the right. So, I'm just saying there's that side that we're like kind of coming out of some of the heavy division, and we understand and we respect, why there would be resistance in the Native American community to do this kind of thing. And we're not trying to push it on anyone. And there are those people that don't want to have anything to do with this, perhaps, but our experience is there's people that are interested, there's people that are going through alcohol and drug treatment programs who are doing well, but they feel like maybe they plateaued and they're trying to find a way to break through, and their access to traditional ways maybe isn't there, or they just haven't had success. And so they want to try something different.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Exciting to follow, and grateful for you guys doing this work.
Thank you.
And for our viewers, can you share just some of the other projects that are most alive right now in your field?
Yeah, Modern Spirit has been supporting a documentary. It's going to come out later in the summer, Kumandai from Colombia. We're happy about that. Modern Spirit Epigenetics Project, hopefully the publication of our data for the MDMA trial is going to be within a month, I hope. And then, we're raising money with Modern Spirit to support this ketamine, this reciprocity project. You can find it at modernspirit.org. You can learn about it, our crowdfund for that. And then meanwhile, the Church of the Eagle and the Condor continues with our things. People can plug into the Wisdom of the Elders webinar series that's going to be presented there over the summer.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you very much.